Hello everyone, welcome back to a brand new haul video. Today I'm going to try something a little bit different here. Instead of using the old kind of setup with my regular video camera, I'm now using my web camera in order to do this video, just because it makes things a little more easier for me and I kind of wanted to try it out. But for those of you who are not familiar with the series of videos that I do here on my channel, basically it's a whole video going over all the things I get in a specific month. Recently, I've been doing kind of groups of month videos, but I've decided to do a specific video for the month of July of 2020 because there has been just so many things I've gotten in July, and specifically for all the things I got from the Criterion sale, which has been quite a few things. So it definitely warrants its entire video, like I kind of do every single time the sale comes around, over the last several years or so. So, without further ado, let me get into some of the non-Criterion Barnes & Noble Blu-ray sale stuff, and then we'll get into that later on. So first up here is a series of comic book things that I picked up, and I once again made my monthly pilgrimage to my local comic book store in order to, get my usual pull list of titles. First up here is an issue 1 giant-size X-Men with a Magneto that is written by Jonathan Hickman. And next up here is New Mutants number 10, which is also written by Jonathan Hickman. For those of you who have been keeping up with all of these videos, these titles look very familiar to you by now. Third up here is Firefly number 16, written by Greg Pak. And then I have Firefly number 17, also written by Greg Pak, and Firefly comics are put out through Boom Studios. And then I have New Mutants number 11. And then I have Shazam number 13. DC Comics stuff. The next two things I have are both from the DC Black label. They weren't new releases or anything like that, but they were two things that I've been wanting to get. And first up here, I actually have book 1 that I showed off, probably months and months and months ago, way before the pandemic kind of happened. And this is Harleen book 2, and I have book 1, and I need to get book 3, but they didn't have any at my local comic book store, so I have to track that down somehow. And then the next one is something that I had heard about that was coming out, but I just hadn't been to the comic book store in so long, and I hadn't really done a lot of browsing. And this is The Question, Deaths of Vic Sage. And this is also, of course, DC Black label as well. As you can see, these DC Black Label titles have different dimensions than the normal comic book. Last but certainly not least of all the comic book things is something I wish I had bought earlier, and I wish I had bought the subsequent volumes earlier, because they are now out of print, and once comic books go out of print, they are kind of a pain to track down, and it can be very expensive. So this is the Usagi Yojimbo Saga, Book 1, written by Stan Sakai, and this is a series that has been going on since the 80s through several different publishers. It first started at Fantagraphics, and then it went to Mirage, then it went to Dark Horse, which is what this run is from Dark Horse. This actually has the Mirage comic books in it as well, so that's kind of nice. And now it has moved on to Boom Studios, so they're probably going to end up re-releasing these at some point, hopefully, because now that they have the rights to it, I guess they can do that. But I really wanted to get these volumes. There's 8 of these volumes, and the others, like I said, are really expensive and kind of a pain to track down. Before I get to the Criterions, I did pick up some non-Criterion Blu-rays. And first up here is the Scream Factory Collector's Edition of Big Trouble in Little China, the John Carpenter film. I already have this on Blu-ray, but this is an upgrade. The extras package on this is quite extensive, and it's a 2-disc edition as opposed to the other one, which is a 1-disc edition. And I believe the transfer on here is better. And next up is a film by Sofia Coppola, and I'm trying to kind of finish out or, catch up with all of the Sofia Coppola films I have, and this is Somewhere, starring Stephen Dorff and Elle Fanning. And what is interesting is I only have 2 Sofia Coppola films that I have to get. That is The Bling Ring and Marie Antoinette, and I'll have all of her films up until now. And I believe she has a new film that was supposed to come out this year, but I think they're going to be holding it until next year. I'm not quite sure about that. And last but certainly not least is the Powerhouse Films Indicator Series edition of The Snake Pit. And the reason why I bought this is because Recently, Olivia de Havilland, just an icon actress from the golden age of Hollywood, passed away, and she is one of my favorites of all time, and I want to get more of her films. And this is an edition that is really good, and it's better than the edition we have here because it has more extras. And it also has a 4K restoration, which is also really nice. But I believe the one we got here that was put out through the recently defunct Twilight Time also had that same 4K restoration. This, unfortunately, is Region B locked, so you can only watch it if you have a region-free Blu-ray player. And now we've come to it at last, all of the Criterions that I picked up during the biannual Barnes & Noble Criterion 50% off sale. And for those of you who already looked at my trip to my local store, you kind of already know these first crop of Blu-rays, but I did go back another 2 times, so I did get a lot more titles, and I got one in the mail as well. First up here is a film directed by George Cukor starring 2 of my favorites, Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn. This is Holiday. Next up here is Paul Polakowski's film Cold War, which is one of my recent favorite films from the last couple of years. Next up is a fantastic film noir that is called Leave Her to Heaven, starring the great Gene Tierney. And next is The Grand Budapest Hotel, which is a Wes Anderson film. And this is a film that I actually already bought on Blu-ray once upon a time, so it's kind of like a side upgrade, if you will. And what happens is Wes Anderson comes out with a film, they come out with a regular DVD and Blu-ray release, and then several years later, we get a Criterion release. It's usually about 5 or 6 years you have to wait for them, but they do end up coming out. And last up is actually my favorite film of 2018, and that is Alfonso Cuarón's Roma. And here are the next crop of Blu-rays from my second trip to the Criterion sale. First up here is Night on Earth, a film by Jim Jarmusch. And what I really love about this film is that it's basically like, I want to say like 5 short films in one. And it's just really fun, and it takes place all over the world with a bunch of different cab drivers and kind of their adventures at night and stuff like that. It's really good and has a star-studded cast. And next up is a classic film starring the great Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, and this is Swing Time. I don't have a lot of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers in my collection. I'm kind of waiting for them to, get the Blu-ray releases, and they're coming out slowly. This is one of the major ones. I have Top Hat on DVD that I bought years ago, which I'm probably going to end up upgrading at some point whenever that Blu-ray comes. Next up here is a Paul Mazursky film, and this is An Unmarried Woman. And this is going to go along with all of the Paul Mazursky films that I picked up from Twilight Time as they were going out of business, unfortunately. Next up is a film by Barbra Streisand, and this is The Prince of Tides. When they kind of hinted at a Criterion release of one of Barbra Streisand's films, a lot of people thought Yentl, but it ended up being The Prince of Tides. And the next 2 films are both silent films, but they both star one of the icons of the silent film era, and that is Harold Lloyd. And the first one here is The Kid Brother. And then the next one here is The Freshman. And this is the old dual format style releases that they put out, circa 2013, 14, that kind of timeline. And what is interesting about this specific edition here is this has been at my local Barnes & Noble for that long amount of time, since it came out way back when. I believe it's the same edition that is stuck on the shelf there all of these years. I know it because it has several dings and dents within it, and I know them all so well because that's what kept me from buying it all this time. But I said, hey, you've been here this whole time, you might as well come home with me right now. And for my third and final in-store trip to the sale, I got a film starring Sidney Poitier that is called A Raisin in the Sun. And this is a DVD to Blu-ray upgrade for me. I have an older, DVD edition that I picked up years ago. I thought this movie was going to come out a while ago, but it ended up coming out quite recently. And it's a fantastic film. It's based on a play I read twice in school. I think once in high school and once in college. And yeah, if you haven't read the play, if you haven't seen this adaptation of it, it's really, really fantastic. Next up here is kind of a blind buy for me, and I just heard a bunch of different, cinephiles and film fans talking about it and collectors. And this is a Bill Forsyth film, and this is Local Hero. And next up is one of my main buying goals for this sale was this movie, because I had waited years for them to finally release it on Blu-ray, and I had to wait until my store had a copy, and they had one copy when I went there for one final time, and this is a film by Preston Sturges, written and directed by him, and this is starring Barbara Stanwyck and Henry Fonda, and it is The Lady Eve. And I am just so happy to finally have this. I love the artwork on the cover here, the kind of caricature cover. And speaking of films that I adore, next up here is another kind of Blu-ray to Blu-ray, side upgrade. And this is something I've been waiting a little bit longer to get, and this is Some Like It Hot. Of course, starring Marilyn Monroe, Jack Lemmon, as well as Tony Curtis, and this is an all-time classic film. And the reason why I picked it up this time is because it does have a new 4K digital restoration, so it's going to look better than the other Blu-ray I have. Also, it has a couple of new special features as well as audio commentaries. It's a really nice package all in of itself, and you can never have too many versions of Some Like It Hot. And another kind of Blu-ray to Blu-ray upgrade in the same vein as Some Like It Hot, in the sense that this has a new 4K digital restoration as well as extras and stuff. And this is In the Heat of the Night, another Sidney Poitier film. This is a fantastic movie. This is a Best Picture winner. Sidney Poitier as well as Rod Steiger's in this film. Quincy Jones does the music in it. It's just fantastic. And lastly, here is a movie that I was clamoring to get. I've had the DVD of this for so many years, and when they decided to put it out on Blu-ray, I was just ecstatic. And this is Taste of Cherry by Abbas Kiarostami, and he recently passed away, and he is an amazing Iranian filmmaker. Check out his film Close Up, that's also part of the Criterion collection, but this film is amazing. This film, I believe, won the Palme d'Or when it came out, so give this a watch if you're interested in his work. And lastly, my last Criterion collection, pickup of the sale was something I had to order online because I couldn't find it in store, couldn't really get it from BarnesandNoble.com, and I had to get it from Amazon, and this is Bruce Lee, His Greatest Hits Blu-ray box set, and this was the hot item of the sale. Every single sale, or most of the sales, seem to have a hot item or a new release that's coming out that's something that people really, really want. And I think they time it on purpose. And this was it this time around. And this is a gorgeous set. And I am shocked that it came in such good condition from Amazon, because Amazon is notorious for really bad shipping packaging nowadays. It actually came wrapped in bubble wrap, which was shocking to me. I hadn't seen them use bubble wrap in years. It has a tiny dent right here, but it's nothing too extreme, nothing you probably couldn't find if you had bought it in a store or anything like that. This has 5 of Bruce Lee's films. Sadly, he passed away way too young. For those of you who know Bruce Lee, you know about his legacy and why he's such a big icon and all that kind of stuff. And this is an amazing set, and I can't wait to dive into it myself because I want to do a whole big Blu-ray review about it and all of its contents. So, that has been my entire haul for July of 2020, which is basically just my Criterion Collection Barnes & Noble's 50% off sale haul. If there's anything in here that you want me to review in any more depth, please let me know. Also, if you like this video, please check out the other videos on my channel, and please subscribe.